guidance, penetration reinforcement, and projectile acceleration. The gun wouldn't hold much mana, but it didn't matter. The ice cracked, revealing Krocken's face. Lennox fired the gun, aiming for the exposed creature. The shot echoed, and time seemed to slow as the bullet sped toward its target. The moment hung in the air, frozen like the ice around them, and then impact. As the bullet hit home, the surrounding ice shattered, and Krocken flew backwards. Dylan complimented his aim as he struggled for breath amidst the subsiding smoke. Kroken stood impressed at the effort, but shockingly enough, he had caught it using his eyelid as Lennox remarked at the monstrosity. Krocken cackled at the praise since it hurt him quite profusely. The two cowered in fright with no mana left. He furnished the laser blade, and the enraged Kroken retrieved his offer to kill them painlessly. As Lennox wondered if it was the end for them, and the strike exploded the area, he sprawled, astonished he was still alive. Kroken's brutal strike had been intercepted by someone. He wondered who it was. Kroken glared at the government's hunting dog, Evelyn, who stared back at him coldly. Viper from Valorant has arrived, relaying how Kroken had now crossed the line. She pushed him away with the spear and questioned his motives to destroy the factory. As he watched in utter confusion, she further inquired if Pandemonium planned on wrecking the district. Kroken pledged his innocence and denoted that the factory was destroyed by the two he was fighting. As Dylan denied the charges and Evelyn agreed, she explained how impossible it was for masked hooligans like Dylan to orchestrate such plans. Although unfair, the blame was reasonable considering his strength. Surrendering to plea any further, Evelyn questioned as he took his leave, since his contract did not provide for him to fight the government. Witnessing the monster flee reflected how strong the lady was. While they thanked her, she unveiled the mask while replying, and he watched in astonishment, since it was the lady from the vegetable stall. As he rose, she queried his identity, since he seemed familiar. He declined any chances, she agreed, since his mana pattern was unfamiliar. He recalled their previous encounter, but fortunately, he had now altered his mana pattern. She advised him to keep away from any further interactions with Pandemonium, and took off with a leap. As they watched, Dylan complimented him on his luck, but he was pissed since he had delayed their exit, forcing him to fight Krocken. When Dylan surrendered 15 million, selling his share, he felt a sudden sense of loss. Dylan reminded him to avoid drinking the toxic potions and build a muscular, strong core like his. After a week, he puked and shivered in pain and exhaustion. He had slept for 4 straight days, confused if it was due to his mana addiction or Viper dosages. Determined to change his weak physique, he decided to consume proper meals over canned food and obtain better medicine, but he had to foremost collect his pay. Jenny queried his 10-day-long absence as he justified, saying he was busy. Although it was dire, he had no reason to reveal his weakness now. When he inquired about Dylan, she reported of him to have already collected his share the same day. She had charged the transfer fees on Dylan's share, and considering Varda's bonus, he now had 60 million cells in 61 million cell bills, which were only created and used by commercial higher-ups. When she praised him for having survived against the old crocodile, he reported to have been saved by an unknown lady. He asks her if she knows about a person named Evelyn. She tells him that Evelyn is a government agent who works for a big government-funded group. When he asks more about something called Pandemonium, she explains that they're like important people among the outlaws and bad guys. They only let famous members join, so there isn't much info about them except for names like Krocken. Encounters with them would be super dangerous, and situations like his surviving would be like a miracle. Even though he was almost dying, Dylan staying calm made sense now. She hands him a piece of paper with the identity info he wanted. She also tells him to get a bank account and a phone. He agrees and adds another request. He heads to a place called Down Alley in Balkan. Inside, he goes to someone sitting down. Lennox says he's come because Jenny sent him. The first thing, he asks for payment. He shows a bill for 1 million cell, which is a really rare type of money, even rarer than what banks use. Since he's a big customer for Jenny, he doesn't have to share his home info. Instead, he's faking the data so it looks real. But if someone looks closely, they'd know it's fake. He's not sure what to do because bribing the boss would cost 400 million, which is a lot. Next, he goes to an underground place. He brings back a dead person's ID back to life. He changes the name from Lennox and pretends to be Evan. He needs a fake name that he can throw away later. He even changes his face using magic. But it's tough, and he has to deal with tricky situations. The man helps him quickly make a whole fake identity. After going back and forth, he finally feels like he's part of things. He calls Jenny and tells her he finished the tasks she gave him. Even though she said to only call her about work, he's the first one to take over. It takes a month for him to get a cell phone. She tells him to find a daytime job so that getting money won't seem strange. He decides to work with Jenny until he understands the city better. He's good at what he does, so he gets rewards that he can keep private. She's nice, but he can't fully trust her yet. He's pretty sure she found out about his ice magic from Dylan. It's weird how she avoids talking about it. The last favour he asked for was about something called Viper's Purchase. She knows about it. He was using cheaper stuff, but it's bad for his health. She tells him to wait for an address in the 30s districts. He's never been there before, so he'll see the differences. It has lots of things like amusement parks and big ports. She had asked him to visit an area in District 31 without asking about anything else, making it uncertain if she was hiding his secrets or planning to backstab or work him while keeping his secrets. Until the two revealed all their cards, it was impossible for him to decide, but he wasn't about to sit around doing nothing. He arrived in a huge botanical establishment and altered his face to vanish since it was Jenny's connection. He walked into the garden full of people and plants, almost like a huge jungle, looking at the myriad exhibits. He was astonished that such a place existed. He turned towards the place Jenny had mentioned and entered the garden's gift shop. He moved towards a staff-only door and entered through. As he descended, he came across a doorway to his left, smelling of viper. He treaded towards it and opened the door, finding himself amidst the huge expanse of smoke. Inside lay a laboratory full of plants and potions. As the receptionist inquired about his identity, he replied saying he was introduced by Jenny of the alcohol store in the 49th district, but unfortunately he had never consented for her to make such introductions. Quickly enough, though, he changed his story, stating he wasn't rich enough to deceive his customers. He asked about his interests in his apparent orchard. After glancing at the weird plants, Lennox instead asked why an orchard was present inside a botanical garden. In reply, the man questioned if he knew of the plant beside him. It was the aeonium, which increased energy, physical activation, and stamina. Since there were plenty of such plants in the garden above, he had no reason to purchase them elsewhere. Lennox inquired about medicines like the viper he presented. Looking at the button-activated file, he plucked open the lid and tasted the liquid. After waiting a while, he spat it out, branding it as super cheap, and inquired if it barely even worked. When Lennox stated that it helped with his mana, the old man gazed at the mage before him. It was very odd, since Viper boosted physical strength during a fight, and definitely not mana. If with a cheap one, although there were rumours of rapid effects when used by a high-class mage, they were uncertain, and he was far too young to be one. Finally, he understood his need for a better alternative, and as he explained that an incompetent vial would cause severe side effects, over providing the least. Lennox requested an expensive variant as such, and he asked about his price range. When he placed 2 million cells on the counter, the old man's eyes lit up. At the bar, while Jenny lay pondering if Van hadn't noticed Dylan taking notice of his ice magic, her grandfather spoke of how mages used to overthink the smallest things. She stood up in shock of his elemental prowess and wondered why he had hidden it. When he asked if she was envious, she reasoned how skeptically understanding Van was, but he asked her to avoid rushing and treat him well. When he suggested offering him some gang or mercenary work, she opted for mercenary jobs, since he had experience working alongside a mercenary like Dylan. Even the mercenaries would welcome Mage amongst their networks. He reminds her that although he was helping her on a guy named Kaiser's requests, she was too impatient. She raises her hand in silent agreement, and he sulks in a corner. The receptionist packed him a case of Cash Aid C-107, which offered 6 hours' worth of physical reinforcement in mana and stamina, alongside possibilities of headache, spasms, and vomiting blood, for the price of 2 million cells. It offered the least drawbacks. Although the side effects could be negated, it required tremendous costs. Even the manual button was operated by Mana, as he looks at the features, similar to another company known as Calvin and Cubs. The receptionist shouts in anger for comparing his masterpieces, which were all made of premium herbs, unlike the cheap imitations. He wishes him to visit again as he takes his leave. 2 letters of resignation letters sat before Dre Krimgar, captain of the Krimgar mercenary group. His comrade way on sight since he had asked him to ease up on them. He punched the table and screamed of how he had cared for the mages throughout the quarter. Kithel concluded of how strenuous the job was for the nerds. Kithel turns away as Dre asked her to recruit a mage. The phone before him vibrated, and he was soon speaking to Jenny, who asked if they needed a mage. As he requests for 2 mages, Jenna notified that she had only 1 to present, and he trooped in disappointment, but she guarantees the 1 to be equivalent to 2. What will happen next? Find out next time by staying tuned for our future recaps. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more great recaps.